starting in the pandemic. Like, that's how we met. This is what her and her family do, is they're connected. They work with elders in the community, bringing meals to folks.
So my name is Julia Rose Carpich. I am 35 and I'm an organizer with the Worcester Community Fridges.
Julie and I are here till 3 in the morning. We started at 10 in the morning. There is difficult times right now, when times are difficult, we try to do the best that we can. Especially this time of the year, we do want to bring joy and happiness to as many people as possible. It takes a village. I mean, if you look around, there's a lot of people here helping out, so it's not just me.
So our goal with cooking the meals today was to get to 450, 500 meals, and that was something that we had shared, when we put information out about the event, and so hitting that number feels really good. I'm really proud of us. It's a lot of work.
It's organized chaos, so it feels good.
If this were me, I would definitely be so grateful that there was a community, like the community in Worcester, that cares so much about each other. And so it's important to make those sacrifices because you never know when you'll be on the other side.
I'm grateful for Mint and Julia and Trang. They're amazing. It wouldn't be possible without them.
So our work with Trang, with the Fridges volunteers, has grown over the past 3 years, and it really is about I think the Fridges are at their best when they're adding capacity to neighbors to do things that they already want to do. And so when folks are interested, or they're like, I really want to cook, 500 meals for my neighbors, but we need some volunteers, or, we really need packaging supplies, if we can step in and be like, we can figure that out, Also, I think that capacity building is such a beautiful part of the work that the Fridges do.
Yeah, my garage is actually disgusting, but that's her. The fact that there's no paint left on the handles, I think is really beautiful, Hi, my name is Maria Rivelli. I am a Worcester resident, and I've been organizing with Worcester Community Fridges since January 2021, which is when the first fridge started. The first community fridge was a direct response to the COVID pandemic. My partner Antonio and I, we were doing just meal distribution. We were giving a bunch of pizzas out to neighbors in the Green Street Bridge, and a ton of the feedback that we were getting from folks was that because of the pandemic, food pantry hours had kind of been shifting. I mean, we were, organizing in crisis, so people just weren't getting food that they needed to survive. So I went home and I just kind of started looking up, what are other people doing to, create the least amount of barriers possible, and the community fridges just kind of started from there.
You should be able to access food to feed yourself as you need it, when you need it, 24/7, because you need food to live, and access to food should be a human right. Building an infrastructure around making that possible, I think, is really what the Fridges have. I think that's the strength of what the Fridges are, is they are that public infrastructure. When you have an economic system that is organized around profit rather than ensuring no one is hungry, there are macro level decisions and dynamics that are going to be oriented towards making somebody money. This is also true for housing. There's enough food that's produced in the world to feed everybody. And yet hunger is such a deeply prevalent and unevenly prevalent issue.
Nice and slow. What? Yeah.
We do 2 food pantries, the Rutland food pantry since we're in Rutland, and then we do the Barry food pantry because that's where I live. And so each of these communities serve a lot of Central Mass themselves, which is great. And then we work with St. John's occasionally, and then obviously the Woo Fridges, which has been very nice for us on our off weeks from our food pantries.
We have some drinks.
Oh, yes.
We have some fruit and vegetables, and some sunscreen provided by me.
Or we'll split into groups. Some will work on mulching and some will work on staking.
I feel like this is it's like the scope of us knowing each other.
Yeah.
It's like we met in a Walmart parking lot, and now we're hammering in tomato steaks at a field in Rutland.
Still unsure why we're here.
I was raised on an organic CSA farm, and that's what my parents did. They love to teach people about good food, where it comes from, how it should be grown, and they really like creating community. And so I'm kind of following in their footsteps. In the morning I go and pick up eggs from our coop and make breakfast sandwich, bring it to my dad when he's working in the fields at 5 a.m.
So fun.
Good
Been
time.
out there for 3 hours already.
Dude, he works his ass off.
Yep.
I think the fun thing about like the fridges and the event here today is like how accessible it is. I'm fully a suburbs girl. You know, I have probably never successfully grown anything in my life, and so being able to contribute in a way that was still helpful, it was just really fun.
That's like the beautiful thing about the fridges when you like phrase it like that. It's like that we're all like taking care of each other to this extent of like you said, like I know these tomatoes are gonna end up in the fridges, and that's like a beautiful thing, you know? And this makes us feel more connected to it. Yeah.
So they don't think about how their food is grown. They don't see how it's grown. They don't see how unhealthy it is. So when you actually see these large-scale meat production systems and these large-scale farms, I mean, all you see is one thing. So you go to a wheat field. It's only wheat. There's nothing alive. There's no insects. There's no worms. There's no birds. There's nothing. The whole ecosystem is totally dead. And you go out here, and there's turkeys, there's foxes, there's deer, there's bear, there's worms everywhere, there's bugs. And so you can really see the difference. I mean, this is a real ecosystem, whereas those monocrop systems they're just dead. The soil should be a living ecosystem. And so when you have a really healthy soil food web, which has all of that diversity of life in it, it creates bioavailable nutrients that the plants will suck up and then put into their fruit or their vegetables. If you are just putting nitrogen fertilizers in there, you're getting only very specific, very basic nutrients. You're not getting these like flavonoids, you're not getting these micronutrients that are available in organic and sustainable agriculture. And so you're actually getting worse food.
This is where we take refuge.
The Worcester Community Fridges as a mutual aid group really creates community. I think that kind of community, people helping each other and themselves through mutual aid is just really something that is missing in the United States. These third spaces don't really exist, and so when people come together from a community to help that community, it's something that's wonderful. A lot of the times, especially people that get food from the fridges, the government doesn't really care about them. Local, federal, state, whatever. And so knowing that someone is there to help you is really reassuring. It's good for your mental health, and obviously you're getting food. It makes me feel good, which is somewhat selfish, but I think when I feed people, when I see people are really happy about what's in the fridge, when people random people say I love you to me, it makes me feel fantastic. It makes me feel like I'm really making a difference. So no, I think this is the best way I could spend my time. I really do.
I described Worcester as like, okay, Boston said, we have the hardest streets to navigate, and Worcester said, hold my beer. I moved to Worcester at the beginning of COVID. When I got here, nothing was going on anywhere. And so it took a few years to kind of get back into doing things with people. For quite a while, I was just not around anyone until I stumbled into this. I was looking at mutual aid upstate Worcester or something, and they were looking for somebody to go do a pickup that day. I was kind of looking to get out of my pandemic hermit phase. And then whoever it was, might have been Maria, then came back and said, would you like to do it on a regular basis? I'm like, sure, why not? The really good thing about volunteering is you don't have to do it. You're doing it because you want to do it. I think that they kind of view it the same way, that, you know, okay, it's a fun thing to go do on Sunday. We can get some food, you know, stretch our budget, interact with some people, socialize. It's kind of a social event, you know. Are they amazing or what? If people don't think that's fun, that's their problem. Maybe they should, like, revisit what their idea of fun is.
It's fun. I mean, it's just like, it's like beautifully chaotic. I love mess. There's something about the like really interesting and like fun things that happen when you're engaged, like the people that you meet, the things that happen, the places you end up, the random side quests that you end up on. That's just like really fulfilling. It's just fun. Like, it's fun enough that I would feel very bored if I wasn't doing it.
There's a certain type of spontaneity that comes with being human that you can't really get anywhere else when you're volunteering with the Fridges. My name is Noah Rose. I'm 29 years old, and I got started with the Fridges in 2021. What inspired me to get involved is I was living in Boston from 2018 to 2020. COVID happened. There were all of the demonstrations going on that catalyzed from George Floyd being murdered. I participated in a lot of those, and I just kind of felt a passion for service to others. I didn't honestly have an understanding of what mutual aid was at that time. I moved back to the Worcester area in November 2020, and I just Googled mutual aid, like volunteering. I found Woo Fridge that way, and I signed up to volunteer, and I showed up every day for probably a month or two. Is this a bath bomb?
I have no idea what that is.
I hope so. To me, mutual aid in and of itself is also political. And I am hopeful of a world where mutual aid politics are going to replace the politics that we have now. I know this is like the Samaritan, do unto others as you would do unto yourself, but it is that simple, you know? Yeah, mutual aid to me is community, honestly. And it took me a long time to understand that as someone who was raised with privilege. Honestly, I thought that it was individual against all, and that's not the case. Mutual aid is the exact opposite of that. You're able to find yourself within that community, but share yourself with others so others can share themselves with you. We learn about what it means to be human when we are with others in community. We are indoctrinated at a very young age that we need to be strong, especially men. Women need to, this is just like very generic, I know this is not for everyone, but women need to be there for the man. You need to be anyone but yourself, basically. And it's kind of like a weird paradox. Like, you're raised to be anyone but yourself, so then you're now just like, you have this wall up. And if anyone tries to get in, you're just pushing them away, and it comes off as individualistic. If you keep yourself closed off to the world, then you're only ever going to experience what's in front of you, and that's boring as all hell, and you're not going to grow as an individual that way. My queerness is very much aligned with my mental health. If I'm able to express myself through my gender identity, gender expression, sexuality, my mental health is going to go up. I was able to do that at the Fridges. That's kind of the biggest thing that I want people to take away from me being here doing this interview. Even with my own gender dysphoria, the Fridges, being at the Fridges took me out of a dark place multiple times. Even when there were conflicts within the volunteers of the Fridges, which happens, because we're people, I didn't want to not go to them anymore. What made me want to go back is that feeling of just bliss, I guess. Whether you're the person that is waiting for someone to drop off the food, or if you're the person bringing the food, there's that shared happiness.
I love refrigerators.
We're here today at Fantastic Pizza. We're giving away free meals from the Grub Guru, and we're also giving away free ice cream from Mrs. Mariconi's Ice Cream. Food is abundant, and there is beautiful resources within our community that want to share and give back to the community. So when businesses like Fantastic Pizza and Mrs. Mariconi's want to spread that love, we're always here to kind of help facilitate and organize that. When the Main Street Fridge was opening, we got really lucky with Saket from Fantastic Pizza. Our very first fridge basically was an immediate I trust it, and there was no questions about nothing, right? You can just tell Saket was this is an easy yes.
Worcester's always taking care of me. So it's my way of giving back. I try and do it every year. When people reach out, hey, we haven't eaten in 2 days, can I get a meal? I'll always say, hey, I don't have a driver, but come, I'll feed you. Not everything is about money. It's all about karma too, what goes around comes around.
And we organized there, it was 2.5 years, right? And it wasn't easy work. There was tons of trash because the city's trash system is shit. There was a lot of people engaging with the fridge, and I think because it was still kind of new, trash was getting left. So I think that was the biggest thing for us, was that the trash issue became unsustainable. And I blame the city because there's no trash cans. The summer of 2021, we organized to get the first public trash can in that area. It was funded by donations. Superior Waste came, I think 3 times a week to take care of it. But because it was the only trash can in that little strip of Main Street, it was getting filled.
It's bigger than there was just trash. That is one of the poorest areas of Worcester. The city and its hand in arm is just kind of treating them like they don't exist.
When you're organizing in a city that has zero infrastructure for open access types of things like a community fridge, there's no trash in a city of over 200,000 people, you have no public trash solutions. Of course things like this can't exist. You can walk up and down Main Street and most of Worcester, and there's trash all over the place. This was because of this really poor infrastructure from the city.
Who's gonna win? It's Axel!
Not me. Why is it important for everyone to have food?
So they don't go.
People die all the time. That's one of the really sad and grim realities of the way that we police the unhoused in America, and the massive cracks in the social safety net that we allow to exist. So my name is Bill Shaner. I am a local independent journalist in the city of Worcester, and I write a newsletter on Substack called Worcester Sucks and I Love It. I've been doing that for 4 years now. There's no formal reporting for when an unhoused person dies in the woods. We literally don't know. We do not know how often that happens. When you consider that, and then you also consider that, you know, the studies are coming out showing that Worcester has the tightest rental vacancy rate in the country. People aren't making more money, and their rents are being hiked up and hiked up and hiked up by real estate speculation and by landlords, even small landlords, that see the way the wind is blowing and say, hey, I should be charging $300 more for this apartment. The market is just allowing this complete imbalance between wages and the cost of housing to just escalate out of control. You look ahead in the future and you don't see like a reality right now in which the social safety net doesn't tear further open and more people don't find themselves in situations where they're housing insecure or homeless, or they're facing eviction. Things like this are becoming increasingly common, which is not a good sign. It's a great thought to have a community fridge. It's an awesome idea, but the fact that we need it is not. Hi, my name is Robert Preciado. I'm a resident of Marlborough, and I've been living here for 6 years. I'm a city councilor in Ward 3, and I'm very excited about bringing mutual aid to our community. The fact that some people need to rely on mutual aid, some people need to rely on things like the community fridge in order to have basic necessities to survive their day-to-day. Yeah, things like that are just unacceptable. If things like this continue happening and it goes beyond necessity, it goes, you know, into abundance where we have so much that we can share between ourselves, you know, that's kind of a society that I would love to be optimistic to see, you know. But unfortunately, we live in such a world where the economy kind of runs everything. Capitalism is kind of destroying our planet and, you know, draining our resources.
Food insecurity is a symptom, right, of like something greater. So, I mean, we see it with like housing. Like people literally die if they don't have housing, right? People literally die if they don't have health care. Like the stakes are really, really big, and I think it's so easy to get caught up in this like nothing we're doing is good enough, like we're not making a dent.
The broader context that the fridges operate in is so difficult for folks and so painful and violent that folks don't have access to food every day. And so moving and organizing in that space like always it's heavy. Like it's hard. It's always going to be hard.
It's going to take years and years to undo sort of the harm that's already been done. I tell Haji I am the District 5 Worcester City Councilor, and I'm not entirely sure that the future looks particularly helpful in terms of the federal government really investing a lot of substantial dollars in local communities. Unfortunately, for local communities like ours, there isn't a whole lot that we're able to do via policies that really truly make a dent in reducing homelessness or housing insecurity. I think seniors are a growing population of a community that we see are both struggling with housing costs and food costs.
One of the grim details I came across recently was that in a recent report from the city, the Director of Health and Human Services noted that there was a 29% increase in senior homelessness over the past 5 years since 2018. Our seniors are like second to our children, the people that we should be taking the most care of and doing the best by. There's no sign of this slowing down. And every time you hear a city official say that, you know, the way out of this problem is to incentivize large developers to build luxury apartments, and that is going to drive your rent down, it's just not true. It's just absolutely not true. It's a lie.
Billions of dollars that go into militarizing local police departments and our military, you know, fighting wars, could be spent on reducing the amount of red tape, for example, that it takes to build more housing. It could go to providing more robust rental assistance for people that need it. Things like building and restructuring our roads and bridges and streets. I would love to see, for example, that a lot of the money that cities and towns receive, that we're able to create a universal basic income program. I think it's possible. All these things are possible. We have the money to do it. It will take a massive shift in federal, state, and local policies and elections to really, truly make those things happen.
There's, a couple of counselors that are, sitting right now that see us and support our work and are with it, but it's tricky, right? Like, you are a politician, and the work that we're doing, it's like anarchy type of stuff, right? It's like we're moving kind of like underground, and I know it sounds so silly because all we're doing is like slinging vegetables. The community fridges, there's no laws for it, and there's no laws against it.
Do you need permits for any of this?
Yeah, that's a good question. We have not gotten permits for anything. And for all of
the counselor, Larry, stop it.
I think why I had kind of visceral reaction to finding out that there was this community fridge that was accessible, because I just really believe, I just feel really deeply, it just feels so inherent to think that people deserve to have food. people deserve, to have access to that and to have that basic need met. And when there's so much disparity, when you just look at food, and I know, for myself, for us, we're not food insecure, and so the notion that people don't have enough to eat, that's crazy. It shouldn't be.
My name's Larry Haley, and I'm a carpenter and an architect, and I've been involved in the repair and new construction of several of the Worcester fridges.
Hi, I'm Deb Lang, and we're a partnership in life.
We're married.
And I've been involved with the fridges 3 years, I think it's been. Wow. And I started out cleaning down at Main Street.
I'm glad to be able to make a contribution. I'm not really going there to be noticed or anything, but in all candor, while I've been working on all of these fridges that I've worked on, Main Street, Brook Street, and Portland Street, I inevitably run into people who use them. This woman came by that, while I was working on, who was in pretty bad shape, it seemed to me, and there were 5 cans of something in there, and she took the can, and she said to me, "You don't have a can opener, do you?" There's a sadness that I felt about, that's how hungry she may have been. She took a can and had no can opener. I mean, I don't even know what to say about something like that. When people come and use these fridges, they're so thankful to you about it, and the need is enormous. We could have 20 more. That jumping off point of generosity and community involvement, saying, nope, we're putting this stuff out there. And as much of it as we can, we're putting it out there and not counting the cost. And I think that is an instinct that people that I know that are there, that's where it's coming from. And that's love.
It started as I needed to use the fridge. I had just walked away from it, did a crazy thing, walked away from my job so I go back to school full time. And I was just I'm gonna check the fridge out, see what they have. We were totally out of bread and out of money, and I was I don't know what they have in here. They had nothing but bread in the fridge, so I was all right, cool. I'm Kate Tucker. I have been volunteering with Fridges since about 2022, I think, maybe. As hopeless as things can feel, with regard to finances and things like that, or like just whatever's going on in your life, knowing that like there is always something for you to do for the Fridges. It doesn't always have to be like, I'm gonna go shopping for the Fridges, or I'm gonna go, do this massive donation. There's literally not one thing you couldn't do for the Fridge.
It's like mostly like fried stuff on like.
Mutual aid is literally for everybody. There's so many people out there that are, they're working poor. They don't make enough to make ends meet, but they also make too much to qualify for any amount of assistance. The Fridges are about bridging that gap, and I think a lot of people can relate to that. And so when you're kind of connecting with people on that level, they're able to see like, oh yeah, that's me. A lot of people think like, oh, I'm not poor enough to utilize the Fridges. I'm not in that much need. I don't want to take it. I mean, I felt that way. Like, I don't want to take it away from somebody who might need it more. If you have a lot of money and you walk by the fridge and you're hungry, grab something great. You know that it's there, so now you can do the right thing and tell other people about it. It's something we've inherited from a generation that was like, I'm good. I don't need to ask for anything. Unfortunately, we're still a society of people that others people, so like, instead of looking for ways that we're connected, we're constantly finding ways that we're not. And the common thread is giving, and the common thread is, food. Again, everybody has to eat. There are people here who have nothing, and like this fridge is their like sanctuary. This fridge is a beacon for them where like they wouldn't have been able to eat otherwise. Our real job is to get the word out there, get more volunteers out there, keep filling the fridges, and keep feeding people.
I moved up to Massachusetts when I was 19 with my now husband. We literally moved up from Miami. We had $200 in our pocket. We had like nothing. We always made it work, and I think we always kind of relied on the hustle to like do it, right? And so for me, like the community fridges feels like that, except now I'm not stealing from Target. Like now I'm like calling Target and being like, we're here. The people are looking at the community fridges as like this really well-established like organization with like social media, and we have all of this stuff, and I'm like, ooh, like no, we're really not. Like we're really just like finessing like the food redistribution game and like making funny memes and causing a ruckus. There is just something that's made me become softer, and I think in my organizing work, that was a really big piece that was missing. I was organizing through this lens of rage, and I think in motherhood, I have now shifted into organizing through this lens of love, which is a huge, like a lot of growth for me. When I was younger, I had so many biases fed to me, right? And I had to, my whole life, I've, had to unlearn biases that I've had around race and poverty and just, everything.
There's a lot to unlearn in this country in particular around deservingness, like this idea that you earn your rest, your meal, whatever material things that you've got, you should earn that through hard work or through, as opposed to everybody deserves to experience a sense of security and care in their lives. Food, shelter, housing, access to education, that there are foundational practices of care that actually shouldn't be on the table. They shouldn't be conditional. They should just exist.
Hi. Where do I even start? I think part of the reason this work with the community fridges is so impactful for me specifically is that this really connected to me to my community in a way that I didn't know was possible. I've always lived in Worcester, and for a long time I convinced myself that the answer to all my problems, whatever they were, was to leave Worcester. 2021, 2022, I felt very isolated. And again, I thought the answer to that was to, move to a different city, try living in a different state, see what that would be like for me, and that I could form communities elsewhere and feel like I was a part of something. The Worcester Community Fridges, engaging in that work, engaging in the work of mutual aid in my hometown, is actually what convinced me to stay. I didn't have community before I found the Worcester Community Fridges. I didn't have a semblance of connection to the place that I had lived in for my whole life at that point. And I was really close to not being a Worcester resident anymore when I started doing this work. And then I kind of realized that the things that I was searching for elsewhere, people with like-minded ideals, people who are kind and wonderful and care about their community and want to experience, togetherness, that was all right here under my nose the entire time. I just had to put effort into finding it. And I'm so glad I did. I don't know, I don't know what my relationship with this city would be like unless I started participating in mutual aid. And I'm just grateful. I think that word has been used a few times in this film. And I'm coming on here to just say I'm grateful. I'm eternally grateful. I'm so glad I stuck it out and decided to give community building a chance. I don't, quite literally, I don't know where I would be without it. So thank you.
For a really small group of people to be able to, meet the needs of the majority. And it's human nature for us to step in and meet each other's needs. The community fridges and all of these things are not like programs, they're not projects. Like, these are living, breathing things in your community that require you to step in. Everyone's vision for themselves is happy, safe communities, and it's up to us to make that happen. And that's only going to happen by you giving up a little bit so other people in your community can have some.
Nice. That was something, I guess.